everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the engineering side of data. The topic of conversation today is data quality in the world of analytics, business intelligence, data science, all that good stuff. I have a guest here to help me do that. His name is JP Urrutia. JP, thanks for coming on the show. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, Bob, thanks for having me. It's great to be talking with another data professional. My name's JP Urrutia. I am a data engineer. My background is mainly in data engineering, a little bit of business intelligence and data science. I've done some private equity consulting, some consulting at a corporate level, and am currently working in the sports gambling realm as a data engineer. I work at Swiss Analytics. We work a lot with financial transactions, and one thing that I guess now's the time to talk about it. One thing that I'm doing is also trying to create more content. So I recently released a couple of blogs, and we'll be releasing another one soon on kind of Kubernetes for dummies. So if this is the
Nice.
time to kind of make that plug, then there it is. So thank you for having me. Again, great to talk to another data professional, and I'm excited.
Great. Yeah, I got your, I think you had building Spark for the M1 chip. So I got that one. Is that you? If I got that right, I got that bookmarked. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just look, I don't know. I think a lot of people have had issues with installing Spark in the past, and
Yeah.
um, even with the new machines.
Yeah. I remember you and I chatting on Twitter about that, about the fun stuff with M1 and how it related to Docker containers. And
That's right.
that's probably my biggest thing I've run up against. So yeah, I'll have to catch up on that blog and keep track of any future blogs. I'll put those links in the show notes. Also follow JP on Twitter. He's a good follow on Twitter. He throws in a lot of data related content and the occasional cooking tweet I've noticed too. I always come away hungry, man. Always cooking this good stuff. It makes me feel bad. My low rent cooking stuff that I put together. So he's definitely
Well,
up in the game out there.
come to Texas. We'll get you some good barbecue. We'll
Oh,
grill up some good food.
excellent. Yeah, I need to make it down to the data council, data day maybe. Which one?
There's
There's two of them,
both of
right?
them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Data Council, I think, is in the spring, and then Data Day is like late. Data Day Texas is late January.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So next year. Well, good deal. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on. Again, we're talking about some data quality stuff today. So let's get into that. Give us, it's a broad term, but yeah, give us your definition of data quality, kind of what it is, and specifically what problems they're trying to solve with data quality and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, like you said, it's a broad thing, but data quality, I mean, and I wouldn't even call this my definition. I got this from Mark Freeman, a guy that I talk to a lot about data quality and data in general. But for a simple definition, it's really just an organization's ability to understand the degree of correctness of its data. A lot of people think that it's a thing that is going to help correct erroneous data or help the business solve its problems for data, like its bad data, and that's part of it too, right? There's all these things that go into it, but I think to keep it simple, at the end of the day, it's just really a way for your business or organization to help understand the health and state of your data in whatever stage of its life cycle that it's in. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think, yeah.
I like that. That's kind of you have to start there anyway, right? So you have to get that ability to measure the data hygiene in your organization, realize that solving it is obviously, like you stated, is highly desirable. But if at least you have some awareness there, right? You can track it, you can monitor it, address it, know what things you can count on, what things need some additional work. That's where the bulk of the battle is, and that's where you start, right? Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's a typical data quality program or department look like in an organization? Like what's some stuff behind the scenes to track this stuff?
Yeah. I think, what what I would say is, a lot of times these things come up when the organization is starting to see problems in their data, and then it's a matter of, okay, we really need to identify what's wrong. We maybe need to throw a team to build out how to monitor or understand this. I think, what it kind of, I mean, to what it kind of looks like from a team to tool perspective, even though that's kind of like a long path. I mean, really, a lot of times you want to have, maybe like data engineers that know how to build certain infrastructure to um, monitor the data pipelines, monitor the data itself. But really, I want to step back and just, I think one of the most important things really is, what does quality look like? What does quality mean for your organization? I think that's one of the most important things in identifying. Because, yeah, if you do get a problem and you do have some sort of data issue, maybe some sort of decision was made with that data, uh, yeah, I think the real threshold or the real foundation is to set up what quality looks like. What is valid data? Does can this data have nulls? A lot of people don't like nulls in their data, but if it can have nulls, why? Sometimes you'll bring in some analysts to understand the data, understand what quality means in setting certain thresholds for certain numeric values, certain categories, things like that. And so I think that, yeah, really understanding what quality means to you is the first step. Um, from there, you kind of set those, for lack of a better term, expectations. I don't want to start throwing tool names or which tools are the best, like great expectations, but
Mhm.
um, really understanding what you expect from your data, and then from there, kind of start finding ways to really uh, really keep those thresholds in place, if you can. And I think, I'm just trying to think, like, I think that um, when you start understanding that, then you can start talking about building out a tool and building out maybe a custom framework, or you want to, buy a tool, things like that. Um, but I think the most important thing is knowing what quality means, and from there you can build off of that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not talking to vendors day one, right? What do you got? What can solve the problems, right? Because you have to define what ails you. Find out, hey, these are the things that we need to measure, and then backing into the quality of our data and how that's affected. I can
Yeah.
imagine that having a good handle on what data you have. So maybe even as a preliminary step. So do you think like a data catalog is beneficial for that type of so knowing where all your data lives and lineage and things of that nature? I guess that's making the assumption that you have all that information, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think one of the, not only just understanding your data, but having some sort of inventory that lets you understand what kind of assets you have, um, what kind of profile that data has. Um, like you said, lineage. I think, I mean, and these are all terms that, we could say are building blocks of data quality. But I think what we're talking now more is a little bit of a people problem as opposed to technical problem. And that is, um, if you don't have, your data assets well inventorized, or you don't have, a way to really track changes or things that are happening in your data, then you're kind of just at the mercy of whatever is happening in your code and your pipelines and your, whatever external data sources you're receiving, things of that nature. Things could get out of hand pretty quickly. So having that sort of infrastructure in place to, I mean, really, really have a good picture of what's happening uh, is important. And of course, the tool comes with it. And even all those subsections of data quality have their own tooling and things like that. But um, it's kind of like these like high level principles that will help you uh, know how you're going to take on certain issues as they arise. So
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of research up front, right? Getting to know your data. And, yeah, like you said, start coming up with those expectations or measures that you want to go with. Yeah. Which I imagine would be a new exercise for a lot of folks out there, right? A lot of them have a vague idea of the data, but to the detail necessary of the hygiene of it's probably a whole other deal. So this would be a worthwhile exercise for a lot of folks.
I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. I help my company and currently helping my company put together a data quality framework in place. And one of the things was, yeah, let's write some checks. Let's write some things that we expect the data from, and the data sources and the tables and the files, et cetera. And sure, you could probably start off and build some common things, whatever, check for null values where they shouldn't be, et cetera. But as you start getting into it, it's really important to have gathered certain requirements and certain conversations with people in the organization, data scientists, producers of the data set. Maybe it's a client that you're getting data from, and the people who are receiving the data. Kind of get that requirement gathering, super
Yeah.
important. It's one thing that I am facing in a way that we took the approach of building as opposed to requirement gathering, and now we're going back and we're kind of iterating upon um, the building with the requirement gathering. And it's not a technical thing, but it's very much an important thing and very, very much critical to the technical work downstream. So,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, I think it's super, super valuable.
Yeah, I can imagine. So sometimes, in my experience, sometimes it can be difficult to get buy-in for a data quality program. Do you find that to be the case? Where in your experiences has it been tough? What have you heard? What have you done? And then if there's any tips that you could share with the audience about helping get around that to convince folks that this is a worthwhile effort.
Yeah, it's a lot of times, and I have a blog post, not mine, but one of, like I mentioned, Mark. He has a blog post that's very good for kind of buying into data initiatives. But what I can just say is that, and we can share that for sure.
Hmm.
But what I would say is, um, sometimes it's two approaches, right? It's maybe even more, but two of the approaches I think of are, if something bad happens, some sort of uh, some sort of dashboard broke or some sort of KPI looked way off, and business leaders are, something's wrong. That's sometimes the first approach where it's something's wrong with our data. What's happening? How do we go back and fix it? And sometimes that is kind of that fear approach where when something breaks, then the organization will buy in. And then there's, hey, let's start developing a framework that will help us be more proactive about this. Other times, I think that, if you recognize an opportunity for data quality in your organization, and maybe necessarily you guys don't have something in place, but you want to build something out. I mean, seeing one of the things that's talked about a lot in the industry is the ROI on data quality, or maybe even data contracts, and thinking about how much money you're saving by having a proactive data quality framework in place, whether that's the impact that's made from decisions with bad data, or that's the amount of time that your engineers are spending on investigating bad data and fixing it and going back and making changes, which will probably happen even if you do have a data quality framework in place, but at least you're minimizing that sort of cost and you're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
you know, salary savings in terms of, you know, my engineer is not spending 40% of their time fixing data quality issues. They're actually innovating, building out new tools, and really helping us get to a better place in our product or in our business as a whole. And so showing that trade-off in one approach, or showing off, if there's bad things happening with your business and you're understanding that we need to be more proactive about this, can definitely be a couple of ways to get that buy-in and get your organization to really understand that it needs that level of quality in place, or that framework to ensure that quality.
That makes sense. So on one hand, you might, if you have a reactive situation where you do have an incident and we're like, hey, let's not make it a second time. Let's shore up some things and get some things in place to help us track and remediate some of these issues. And then there's also, hopefully you can go the proactive route where you're getting out in front of this, like you described as well, where you can start measuring the impact of data quality in dollars and cents, and hopefully convince some folks before it's before there's 2 a.m. calls, right? Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. Okay.
yeah. Um,
Yeah. Hey, tell me about this. I think we were talking about this idea of this podcast. We were kicking around some ideas, and one of the things I noticed you were doing was the book club for data quality, right? What was the book title again, if you could?
yeah. So the book was the data quality fundamentals.
Ah, that's right. Yes.
Bar Moses, um, I believe, and I believe Molly Verwick and a couple of other people over at Monte Carlo helped in the writing of this book, and it's a great book. It's a book that I used to sort of scope out what building a data quality framework in a company looks like. I mean, it's pretty great in showing various approaches as far as. I mean, I think one of them was just really understanding what data quality is, why we need it, what are the building blocks for a data quality framework, what does it look like to kind of collect data quality metrics, where does data quality fit in maybe like in a data pipeline or a data lifecycle, looking at ROI on data quality, things like that. And the whole purpose of the book club, and in this case what we did was we did a two sessions. We did the first session with myself and Mark, and we had some attendees. We talked about the book itself, maybe some context into how it could fit into people's workflows. Then we did like a chat after the fact to get people more involved, have people ask questions about data quality. This is all part of the Data Quality Camp Slack channel, which is a great place for people to come in, meet others, ask questions, learn some data quality topics, share their own. Um, and Yeah, the second session was great too. We had Chad Sanderson and Molly, one of the authors of the book, come in and have a discussion of their own. And then we broke that out into some discussions as well, so that people could really kind of bring what they knew or what they read in the book or none at all, and then come in, talk about the book, talk about data quality. And it's something that, um, you know, just the point of the book club is to have a community uh, driven place for people to come and discuss a topic that interests them, and a topic that that I think many people might agree, might not agree, but just that data quality is such an important thing in our industry, and I think people are seeing that more and more. So to get to do it in a fun way and have people come and have some chats to meet other people in the data world is great.
Great. Yeah, those community-led initiatives are always very powerful. There's probably just not enough of them, right? So I'm glad to see that this one is out there. Are there any? Is it concluded for now, or is there any future plans to do? more of those, or to maybe go at it again from
Yeah,
the beginning?
yeah, that's a good question. I think we do have plans of continuing that. I think it's been on hold for a little bit, but hopefully we can get that back up soon here.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that would be definitely worthwhile, and give more folks a chance to enjoy it. I know that I did not participate in the book club, but had a chance to review some of the materials you sent over, and it was a lot of great content. I'm sure and I haven't read the book yet, but after reviewing some of the notes from you that you'd sent over, yeah, definitely it was like, oh yeah, that is a lot of good information to know, and it really had me thinking about data quality in some different ways and some of the things I need to be doing better. Yeah, absolutely.
I think yeah, things that we can all be doing better. But we can definitely share. I think we have some recording of one of the sessions, and perhaps the second one that we might be able to share as well.
Absolutely. That'd be great. Yeah. If we could include those in the show notes, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Speaking of that materials that you sent over, maybe it was the first session that I watched some of the recording of. There was this concept of the rise of data downtime.
Yeah,
Yeah. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, what do you mean by that?
yeah. So, what is data downtime? So, data downtime is basically um, when data is in a missing, either missing or otherwise erroneous. But it's basically, and according to the book, it's basically saying bad data. Um, you know, it's kind of like I think in the software engineering world, application downtime, right? There's some sort of downtime with the application, and then issues all across the board. Maybe people can't access the interface. Maybe a server's down. But in this case, it's particularly to data. Um, and basically, what has happened is we are in such a fast-paced and quickly changing landscape that the more complex we get, the more opportunity for data downtime grows. We're migrating to the cloud, and so the cloud becomes more important because all of our data is hosted in the cloud, and there's many ways that cloud services can break. We're getting data. We're getting data from disparate data sources all over, different data formats, and so that's leading to more potential for erroneous data. Our data pipelines are getting more complex, leading to more dependencies, and that again can spike up some downtime. And then having specialized versus decentralized data teams, maybe looking at specialized with more users working with data, more people producing data, causing more potential error, and then maybe there's people that aren't able to access certain data, and so that's another issue where accuracy may not be um, up to standard. And so it's really just this thing where, as we kind of grow as an industry, we have more opportunities for bad data. And we talked about this kind of reactive approach, and it's becoming more and more visible that we have more and more data downtime because of how much we're changing. And so it's really just, and some bad data that we might have affect our organization.
Gotcha. So systems have become more distributed. Our data sources have become more varied. Our teams have become more decentralized, and then the dependence on data has gone up. All the all the recipes that yeah are that's good. Um, in terms of the dependency aspects of it. But yeah, that makes more sense now. That yeah, we had the more of a potential for data downtime with those things we talked about with the distributed systems and the decentralized teams and all that good stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's gone as the days like, oh, all we need to do is source our main system. Um, yeah, that's maybe exist in certain cases, but there are a lot of cases out there where it's not only that, it's the CRM that we use. It's this vendor information that we have to get via API. And yeah, because we want that complete picture, but then the risk goes up. That makes a lot of sense.
Totally, totally. I mean, at an enterprise level, I'm sure it's a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah, I can certainly, yeah, seen that before. Yeah, interesting. Yes, one of the other, so one of the other things in the book club that was talked about, and obviously probably in the book as well, is this idea of a circuit breaker type of incident or example. Like, could you add some color to that? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we have um, data quality, what we'll be working with is we want to implement data quality into our pipelines. We want anywhere from an upstream data source to a downstream data source to meet certain expectations that we've set. And so basically a circuit breaker can come into play to ensure um, standards. For example, if we put a circuit breaker upstreaming the data pipeline, uh, pipeline may stop running when data doesn't meet a certain set of quality thresholds. We're pausing data workflows in some instances in the middle of a pipeline. If that data is found to be either inaccurate, erroneous, or not, again, meeting those thresholds. Um, and there's it also incorporates levels of criticality, right? If I have critical level SLAs or expectations, then I don't want that data to be moved down in my process or in my workflow to then get to a source and cause errors in my reporting, analytics, etc. Um, so it's kind of setting that filtering and way of preventing critical data downstream from getting negatively impacted. I believe there's two circuit states, and then I think we're talking also specifically a little bit in the context of maybe like airflow or just data pipelines in general. But if a circuit is closed, I believe it's because data is flowing through the pipeline, and if it's open, then it's not. Um, Things like I mean, you can even put SQL check operators, I believe, is another airflow tool that can be used to kind of check your data's logic via SQL. So it's really just a way to uh, prevent any downstream data from not meeting your expectations upstream in
Okay,
your pipeline.
gotcha. It's for those severe data quality issues, right? That you want to, I guess, special care of. There's probably some that you just document and move on and just say, hey, we have another occurrence of this, but there's are some examples where we want to stop the process, right? And would that be something that, in terms of how when we do, is this data quality issue circuit breaker worthy item? I imagine that's decided up front when you're talking to stakeholders in the initial discovery phase of, hey, these are things we want to measure, and then, hey, when we come across these things, this is how we want to handle them. Type of.
Yeah, I learned that there can be in this proactive approach, there's kind of three ways of looking at it. It's what's going to be the cost of me letting this thing run and letting this data getting downstream. What's going to be the cost of me trying to prevent it from getting downstream? Um, and what was the other one? It was what's going to be the cost of if it does get downstream? How am I going to fix it? What's going to be the then time spent or effort spent to then fix it if it does get downstream? Um, it's just kind of like, what's your trade-off? Level of uh, what's your level of desire of fixing the issue where? So it definitely matters to your business and understanding what matters to your business to kind of let that process go on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Speaking of fixing the issues, over my career, I've had a number of examples of data quality issues being discovered. Um, Often times it's by somebody ran a report and said, this looks crazy. What's going on? So they call the analytics team, the business intelligence team. They go, oh, okay, well, that's how it's represented upstream in the source system. And so, um, yeah, what advice or where do you land on where should these issues be fixed? Is it one of those, yeah, it would be great if they were solved upstream, close to the source as possible, if not in the source, or do you find them often being fixed in the data pipelines downstream? Yeah, what's some of your opinions on that and where you like to fix these things?
Yeah. So I think solving things as upstream as possible is the best. Sometimes things are out of your control, whether that's third party data sources, human error maybe in terms of receiving reports or receiving some sort of data input. I think as upstream as possible is definitely the best approach, but sometimes you can't have that luxury or that ability to do so. So I mean, the way that I see it is I think that having checks at many stages of the pipeline is important. Um, at whether it's the ingestion phase or the transformation phase, or maybe even the analytics side, and you're looking at your tables and views to be checking what's being used for reporting. Um, I think that that's a way to be super diligent about what's happening and really understanding. Um, but these are things that I personally would like to eliminate as early as possible. But sometimes it's just
Yeah,
unfortunately not that easy. But
doesn't happen too often, does it? When you convince maybe app developers to fix something like that.
oh man, and I know one of the biggest things right now, at least from the data quality side, is data contracts and ensuring
Hmm.
producers and consumers to be in agreement on what's supposed to be sent from A to B. I personally haven't practiced or put that into practice or even experienced it in depth, but but in concept, it sounds like something that could really solve a lot of issues
Yeah,
when just transferring that information.
yeah. No, I think that's yeah. Myself, I haven't I haven't been involved in something like that either. From a data contract perspective, I think that would be interesting to see. I think at the very least, it would raise awareness, so people are aware that hey, this is something that is happening upstream. The stakeholders are involved. Um, I would be curious to know when when the rubber hits the road. Are these things? Are they? Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, we no, yeah, we agree to do that, but we're not going to do that. Yeah, I wonder what happens in those cases, but hey, it doesn't hurt to try, right?
No, well, I don't know, but no, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's definitely another type of buy-in that's a challenge.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. Are people actually signing these things as well? Do you know? I imagine they have like sign on the dotted line.
yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, I mean, hopefully, I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that. I think
Yeah.
that even then, what are the
Yeah.
consequences of signing it and not adhering to those
Yeah.
agreements? I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that's maybe some uh, legal
There you
expertise
go.
that I don't
Yeah.
have.
Everybody brings lawyers. Yeah. I
Yeah.
doubt it goes that far. I guess for the audience, for what I interpret from these data contracts, it addresses schema, right? It says, hey, this is what we agree upon. This is the format that we agree upon. Like how we'll get it. Time, imagine intervals. Time, is it batch or is it live with a latency of 5 minutes, and then also probably some and in a perfect world some data quality expectations as well that we all agreed upon and are aware of. Are there anything else that you are aware of that are typically in these data contracts? Any other things that are addressed?
To be honest, I can't give a good
Yeah,
answer to that. I would hope that maybe, um, like you said, schema. I don't know if distribution is involved there, but I think that that's a thing that needs to be dynamically handled. I don't know if certain
yeah,
fixed values may change, but I know that. I mean, yeah, I think it's something that I definitely need to educate myself on more. But uh, yeah,
yeah.
it's
Same.
something that I
Yeah,
hope solves a lot of problems. At least
yeah,
we'll see.
yeah. A lot of people are talking about that. That's not a bad thing, right? Yeah, because typically, yeah, it's right now the method of, hey, this is a problem upstream. Can you fix it? No, my backlog is, yeah, I can throw it on the backlog, but I'll get to it in 12 months or something like that. And then analytics team grouses about it for a long period of time, and then
And
nothing
the
gets
data's
done.
changed already many times since
Yeah,
that happened.
exactly. Well, you didn't have a problem when I changed it 5 times ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. We won't solve that one today. But yeah, that's always an interesting thing about where and who's responsible for it. But hopefully that's getting better. And yeah, I'd like to see some more movement on the contract front and get some more buy-in with that. I guess time will tell, right? Yeah,
I agree. Time will
yeah,
tell, and
yeah,
hopefully that gets good momentum.
yeah. Hey, one of the other things that caught my attention in the book club materials was this idea of um, data quality challenges in the world of streaming. Does that or is there anything new and different, or is it mainly they just happen a lot faster in the streaming world? Is that what's the takeaway there?
Yeah, I think one of the things with that is trade-off really, because I think what happens is um, when you're with batch, you'll have most likely higher data quality but lower availability. With the streaming side of things, you may have lower quality with higher availability. um, it's an interesting thing. I think, like, you know I personally haven't worked on implementing data quality within a streaming pipeline or some sort of um, event, or not event, but I don't even want to call it
Yeah,
real time, but we'll call it we'll just call it a stream. But I think yeah, that's the trade-off. It's availability versus quality in some regard. Um, what does your business need streaming for? And if it's really important, which in many cases it can be, um, you should expect some sort of sacrifice of maybe quality or availability if you don't have other processes in place to prevent that. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think with batch, you have these expected intervals, and you have kind of time to implement these checks. I think it's there's some speed
yeah.
that can definitely
Changes
be a
the
turn.
Yeah, it changes the problem slightly, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, have you had the opportunity to um, see it? I mean,
Very
firsthand.
basic stuff, noting things and something like some kind of a stream processor thing is most likely where you'd end up seeing, at least in my limited experience with streaming stuff, is noting them, during the aggregation. Oh, yep, this is problematic. Maybe even sending them down a different path, as in publishing them to a different Kafka or Kinesis data stream,
Hmm.
and saying, hey, this is problematic, right? Yeah.
Right.
So treating
Right.
them that way, uh, certainly nothing from a stop the presses type of a deal, because that's very anti real time or streaming. But yeah, just this idea that it could just end up down a different path and into the analytics space, and how they're addressed or corrected as well. Certainly, as yeah,
Certainly.
yep,
Certainly. Yeah.
yep. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it and just kind of seeing, and I think it's just good to know that um, it it's possible in both. You just have to understand where you're trying to kind of allocate, maybe, like I said, availability and quality, and
Mm-hmm.
understand that trade-off.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of one of those, another factor in the rise of data downtime, right? Just another thing that we can include alongside the
Sure.
distributed systems and the decentralized teams is now people want stuff fast. Yeah,
People
that's
want
also
stuff fast.
yeah, it's problematic,
Even
right?
if they don't need it fast, they want it fast.
Yeah. Oh boy, we're launching several podcast episodes today, JP. Right? This idea that yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah, from a tactical standpoint, yeah, you might need some data pretty quickly, but there's nobody in a corner office staring at the output of a Kafka pipeline, a Kafka driven pipeline to make a decision on what they're going to do in the third quarter. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, like I said, another episode for another time on that.
So
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, what are some of the tools in this space? We've kind of maybe alluded to some of them, but yeah, what do you typically see as whether it be vendor backed stuff or open source solutions? And yeah, who's out there solving this problem already that you can go and either clone from your favorite GitHub repo or write a check to some vendor, etc.
yeah, so I mean, we could start off with the one we mentioned already, and that is Grow Expectations. Um, what I know that they do really well is they make it they make it easy to sort of, identify your assets and set thresholds within those assets, or maybe columnar level expectations. So Great Expectations is a very popular one that I know of. It's open source, as well as I think they have a paid version as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, DEEQU, I think, is an AWS based tool
Mm-hmm.
that leverages Spark. Um, and then one that came out actually a week or two ago that I'm excited to get my hands on is called Spark Expectations. And
Okay.
it was published to GitHub by Nike. Um, and their framework I mean, if you go there, read me, it's super interesting because it has a good visual representation of how you can fit this tool into your processes and, cover grounds for all of the important things that it would take for data quality infrastructure to have. Um, and like I said, that's something that I am interested in checking out. Haven't yet, but another, I mean, another concept in that would be just to build your own, which, we know kind of like build versus buy
Mm-hmm.
trade-off is very on a case by case basis. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's really like
Yeah. Goes
use
into those
case.
build versus buy. Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
where maybe you've kind of land philosophical in your organization or in this particular project. I think there's also room, like you alluded to earlier, about these like a kind of a middle solution there with like an Airflow SQL operator. Kind of do some stuff there that may not be full fledged data quality things, but that's where you want to get started. You can start there. Yeah,
yeah. Even
I
writing a little
yeah
Python
yeah
function. Yeah,
absolutely better than nothing, right? You don't need to solve it all day one. Interesting that you mentioned DQ. I don't think that gets enough publicity. I used it around a year ago on a contract I thought it was okay. I thought it was a little bit difficult for me to get checks into, kind of in a production world and include those and like, okay, can I have those somewhere else independent of my pipeline, then pull those in and check the check the data quality. That was interesting. I did notice that at reInvent last year that they're using DQ to back that. I think it's called Data Zone. No, wait, that's the catalog solution. I forget whatever the new, or maybe it is the catalog / data quality service. That anyway, DQ is backing some of that, and they're including a lot of nice little data quality stuff in their latest round of services. So that's good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think DQ is very Spark based, right?
It
So
is. Yep. Yeah.
yeah,
Almost. I think it exclusively is, and that's for what I was doing. Yeah, it worked perfectly. And I did evaluate Great Expectations, and there's a lot of stuff to like about Great Expectations as well. I just felt like the DQ thing was the perfect fit for what I wanted to do. One of the things I do like about Great Expectations, it seems like you almost create those expectations through discovery. So I think it's kind of natural to go from, hey, I'm analyzing this data, I'm discovering this data, I'm getting more familiar with my data. And as I do that, I can create these expectations, then I can use them in a production pipeline as well. Yeah, so that whole idea of from EDA to production is pretty cool. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
The EDA part is definitely. I mean, if Great Expectations is helping with that, that is a nice to have for sure.
Yeah, I think hopefully I'm not making all that up. But that seems to be what I remember when I evaluated several years ago. That's what I liked about it. The ability to create those expectations during discovery and then utilize the same ones downstream. Yeah, very slick. Yeah. And I didn't know about Spark Expectations, another one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, new
Right.
shiny
Yeah.
tool. Yeah, new
Yes,
tool, new
we
toy.
like those. I love the new tools. Just in time for Christmas. Get that on my
Yeah,
list. My dear Santa Claus.
yeah. Spark Expectations is number one on my list. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Anything else with the book club? What are some of the slides that really well, you obviously created them, but some of the stuff that really, I don't know, resonated with you in that book and some of the discussions that you had with the book club?
Yeah, I think for me, we talked about sort of the EDA and expectation setting, but the metadata component I think is super important, as well as the observability component, hand in hand, right? Um, Having a way to uh, visualize and see what's happening, as well as tying that to maybe some sort of alert. I mean, I'm sure we've all been flooded with Slack alerts and had things that are constantly pinging us when things break, but um, bring in the criticality side of things and understand what's important to be flagged on. Um, yeah, having the metadata, one of the things that I have been doing with our data quality framework is making sure that we are outputting certain um, results that happen from our data quality checks, what kind of error happened, when it happened, to what asset, what was it, a data set, was it a column, and having that available for us to really understand. I think that the metadata component and having an inventory of your data assets for me is one that I think was super important, and leveraging metadata. And I know people talk about metadata, like this stuff's really important, and we're understanding data about our data. But I think it's true. I think ha- excuse me. I think having that is super valuable, and um, collecting that. I think a use case that I learned about recently was um, data scientists like to use have different models and simulations that happen within their um, their data science workflows, and
Ah,
having metadata that maybe shows like performance of those models, or what kind of features went into those models, and generating those outputs upon different runs, having observability into that and metadata on that. find it super valuable. At that point, you start doing, time series analysis or some sort of comparative analysis to understand performance between certain things. And that's just, possible through creating good metadata, and then having observability into that.
Oh, that is nice. Yeah, I didn't. I could definitely see that would be beneficial, and especially if you're in the exploratory mode and kind of the what if mode. Some of the things you're trying to do in the machine learning world.
And on the
Absolutely.
pipeline side as well, right?
Yeah. True.
Compute resources, pipeline
Yes.
runtime,
Yes.
um, things of that nature. What
Yeah.
caused a certain spike to happen in our processes,
Hmm.
um, things like that. I think that kind of that visual side of it is, I mean, at least having the information first, but
Yeah.
that sort of observability
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah. Building a data pipeline nowadays often happens in the cloud. A few more levers to flip, buttons to push. The trade-off of performance and cost, and having some more information to kind of help us make those decisions is certainly beneficial, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Well, JP, this has been a great conversation. I've learned a ton, added some more stuff to my reading list. I love it. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Audience, please rate, review, and subscribe. Until the next time, see you later.